Fuzzy Biker here, and welcome to Throwback Thursday. We are in the secret back room at Baxter Cycle, and look what we have today. This is a 1967 Royal Enfield Interceptor Mark 1A. Check that out. This is kind of a rare bike. First off, the Interceptors from this era, they only made a little over 1,000 of these total over like a 10-year period. And this particular model, we think they only made, this is a YB model, I think it's called. YC model, right there, the engine number. We think they only made about 90 to 120 of these. And we also think this is one of the last bikes that was produced in the old Redditch factory. After this, they went to the Westwood factory. So that minutia alone is interesting about this motorcycle. These were very desirable bikes in their time. They were known for having great torque, a good top speed. They said they would top out at about 115 miles an hour, but cruise all day at 90-95. And I think it was the Motorcycle magazine or something like that back in the day, that was their conclusion, that it was really a smooth running, powerful bike. And I believe it. I've ridden the old version of this, the 700 that was put into the Indian frame, built by Royal Enfield. It had the Constellation engine, which is actually lighter duty compared to this one. And I absolutely loved it. It had so much low end torque, and I'm told this even has more, plus a little more horsepower. So what is it? Well, it's an overhead valve. I think it's, let me get my notes out here. It's a 736cc overhead valve semi-unit, meaning the engine and transmission are kind of hooked together. It's running ML carburetors. Compression ratio on these were anywhere from 7.5 to 8.5. And they said there's really no rhyme or reason. You just have to kind of look at that when you get the bike. They really, some had 7.5, some had 8.5, some had 8. But anyway, by the time this bike came along, it had the coil ignition. So what was a distributor over here became a, what was a magneto over here became a distributor. This is running Amals. We think they're 30 millimeter Amal carburetors. Also, the Constellation had an angle on these carburetors where these are more straight in. But this engine was redesigned by Royal Enfield, and they had a good engine before, but they wanted it better. The old one was known for leaky, for having a weak clutch, for having a lot of vibration. So they beefed this thing up in the right spots. They put a better crankshaft in it. They you know, the mounts were changed and made stronger. Everything was just done different. They're a little more bore, a little more stroke. Very interesting in that sense. And you know, it's supposed to give it just a lot more lower end torque and a lot better top speed. Again, 4-speed transmission right here. Here's the indicator here somewhere, right there. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a return. You click that and it'll throw you back to neutral. I don't know what this is. That oil ad maybe? This is a tack drive, so there are cams here and here, you know, for the exhaust, for the intake. And this is a tack drive, ran off one of the cams. Notice that this tack sweeps this way and the speedometer sweeps this way. We'll get to that in a minute. But so other things about this, when they trying to get rid of the vibration, they beefed up the mounting points on the front of the engine and the back of the engine. And I just want to point out real quick, this engine, there is no frame underneath the engine. So the engine is actually, you know, part of the frame, stress member. They also did something back here with the swing arm bushings to make that firmer. And by the time they got to this model, they also added 3 inches to the swing arm and 3 inches back here. So it gave it a little more wheelbase. Went from 54 inches to 57 inches. I think that's 1,400 and, let me look at my notes here, 1,448 millimeters. This bike had about a ground clearance of 6 inches, 152 millimeters, a 31-inch seat height, which is about 787 millimeters, and was supposed to weigh about 410 pounds. I don't know if that's wet or dry, but that's about 186 kilograms. I really love the way these things look. I love all these old motorcycles, especially these old British ones. Just a gorgeous, you know, look at that long arm there, mechanical brake, electric switch for the taillight there, you know, the drum hub. These old adjusters like that, I love those. You know, you can really see where you're at with those. Speedo drive back here. Battery with a case. I don't know where the coils are in there. I think I've heard they're back here where the plug wires. Let's see if we can follow them back. Yeah, they seem to go back. I can't get the seat open, but anyway, coming up here to the top, we've got, not sure where the key is. Oh yeah, it's over here. Turn the key on. Your headlight switch is probably there. Your day running switch, lights on. High beams, horn, clutch over here, brake, gas, and of course this is choke. Here's the gauge package. So speedometer on this side, it sweeps this way, the speedometer does. The tach sweeps the other direction. That's kind of cool, isn't it? And then of course here's the amp meter. Back in those days you had to have those. Everybody had those. And I think this is an alternator bike already. Mechanical brakes, of course, drum brakes I mean, on the front. I think that's supposed to be an 8-inch drum on the front and a 6-inch on the back. Not sure about that. You might want to look that one up. But you know, the fun of drum brakes. I'm old enough to know a little bit about drum brakes and what fun they are. Anyhow, look at that, isn't that neat? Just a gorgeous looking machine. The big old chrome fenders. In the States, I think these were only sold in the States, by the way. I think they were sold as a Roadster and as a Scrambler. And I don't know enough to tell you the difference between, I would assume the Scrambler would have a higher pipe like this. I know they had this tank, and I also know they had a chrome tank. And I'm guessing that the chrome tank might have been the Roadster model. I'm not sure about that, but I've got a book on these, but it just wasn't enough information in there. I think the velocity stacks were an add-on for this model. Could be wrong about that, but you know, isn't that just neat? The old ways of doing it. Just a beautiful bike. These are a lot of fun to ride. Like I said, I rode that friend of mine's Indian 700. Same basic motorcycle. You know, not as refined as this one, but just had a ball on it. I rode it, I don't know, 10 or 12 miles, and I just didn't want to give it back. And it had so much low-end torque. And like I said, these were known for having much more low-end torque, you know, much better low-end torque. One of the things I read said you could be going 20 miles an hour in 4th gear up a hill. That's incredible, you know, and pull away, and give it the gas and pull away. But, you know, it's got the bacon slicers on the front for looks. Interesting bike, very interesting bike. And it's going to a new home in England, so I hope they have a lot of fun with it. I love it. One of the things they did when they upgraded these engines, and Royal Enfield decided to rebuild the whole thing and, you know, make things heavier and less vibration and all that, was they wanted an oil tight motor. And that's one of the claims to fame of this engine, is that it's hard to get them to leak. They don't. The older ones, the Constellations, the 700s, they were known for leaking. These were supposed to be, that was one of their goals, design goals, was keep it from leaking, and also a better lubrication system for the inside. I love it. I love it. If you're interested in a motorcycle like this, or a BSA, or an AJS, or a Norton, or a Ariel, or a, you know, Triumph. Look at this whole row of Triumph right through here. Go to baxtercycle.com and check out their inventory. Give Randy a call. He knows everything about these bikes. Also, I'd just like to point out, they have parts for anything. They've got buildings full of old parts for these old bikes. So if you're interested in something like that, give these guys a call. They've got people that's all they do all day long, is look for parts for these bikes. Thanks for watching Throwback Thursday, and we will see you all next week. Get out there and ride. Wahoo!